Okay, the booting process of the board is very simple. We first turn on the board and we boot up the serial link by using this particular connection ZC706. By the serial port we log in to the system, to the Linux system, and after we have logged in we execute ifconfig to set up the Ethernet interface, and once the Ethernet interface is set we can open the ZC706 underscore Ethernet connection. And once we have opened the ZC706 Ethernet connection, afterwards we can transfer programs into the system by using this particular command, right, from this particular directory C scratch. So let's see basically how this thing works. Let's see the boot up process. Now the boot up is in process. We are booting into the serial environment by using the Linux system. So we have logged into the Linux system. Now we can use, I have prepared a file that helps me to carry out the different kinds of works. So I can execute ifconfig, this command, from the serial console. Over here I can type this and I press enter. Now our Ethernet interface is up and running. So we can go to PUT and we can open the ZC Ethernet. Yes, of course we want to log in, so we select yes and we log in as root. So now we have logged in. We are logged in into the system. And we can experiment with the different types of structure for Linux. Now once we have logged in, now we have a code and we have changed the code. So now we save this code, and once we save the code, automatically the compiling and making of the code starts. And this linuxcall.elf file has been created successfully and there have not been any errors. So now we can minimize this and now we can return to this particular thing. This is basically your Ethernet window and this is basically our COM2 window of the FPGA connection. Now to transfer this file into onto the FPGA, I have made two batch files. One batch file is init.bat, and when I execute init.bat, it copies the three important files onto the FPGA. Let's see how it works. When I type init, the three files are copied. linuxcall.elf, this is the main binary that runs on the ARM Cortex CPU. Weights.bin file contains the weights, and indata.bin is the input image that we want to process from this particular convolution net of ours. Now init.bat is basically a file that is used for initial transfer of these three files onto the FPGA. Once these three files have been transferred onto the FPGA, whenever I use the SDK to change the software, for example this, I can save it again. Now when this new ELF file has been created now, and I just want to transfer this ELF file, I only want to transfer this single file, I can just execute LD. So LD would save me a trouble. It would just copy this linuxfall.elf file to the ZC706 board. So this is how the process occurs. Once we have done the initial transfer, we can modify the code in this particular thing, this SDK window. Then we can execute LD to transfer this ELF file onto the ZC706 board. So now we have moved the entire contents from the project onto the FPGA by using the file that was init.batch, right? So we have a sample run from the previous case where we had a success, and basically the test batch result was success. So let's try to run it again for the second run, and we see that the result is 88.38% for the class 207, which is the correct, and its output is 18.94. So let's run it again, and when we run again, we have this option of the result, which is again a success, and again the class 207 turns out to be 88.39%, which is the output of 18.94. We can now transfer files to the system, right?